I built my career from nothing, struggled through every obstacle, only to be treated like an ATM by my own family. Then came the night everything blew up literally, and I had to decide surrender or fight for my peace. Before starting this story, if you are listening from USA, please leave a comment with number 9, and if you are from another country, please leave the name of your lovely country. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to listen to more stories. My name is Galilea, and I am 29 years old. I work as a senior financial analyst in the heart of Chicago, a city that feels both like a beacon of opportunity and a maze of challenges. I am engaged to Halston, a tech entrepreneur whose intelligence and ambition match my own, together. We've built a life grounded in shared values, hard work, practicality, and modest dreams. Our wedding plans reflect that a simple ceremony at a quiet lakeside venue, with only our closest family and friends invited. We have set a budget of $40,000, carefully calculated to cover travel, lodging, and a reception dinner. It isn't extravagant, but it's meaningful and exactly what we want. Despite this peaceful picture, an uneasy feeling has settled over me, the calm before the storm. As some might say, family tensions simmer beneath every conversation, especially those involving my mother, Evelyn, and my younger sister, Grace, with her effortless charm and my father's gentle eyes, has always been the golden child. I, in contrast, carry my mother's sharp features and a relentless drive to prove myself. This imbalance has shaped much of my life, but I have worked hard to rise above it, determined not to let it define me. Halston sees this weight I carry. He reminds me gently that my success and financial independence do not make me responsible for everyone else's problems. You have to protect your peace, he says softly on nights when the family calls drain me. And yet, the programming of decades runs deep. I find myself wrestling with guilt whenever I set boundaries, questioning if I am being selfish or abandoning my family. The emotional ties, though tangled and painful, are not easily severed. In the days leading up to Grace's engagement party, that tension thickens. The event is set to be a lavish affair, with my mother orchestrating every detail to perfection. Beneath the surface of smiles and congratulations, I know there are expectations, especially financial ones, that will soon be directed at me. The knowledge sits heavy on my chest. I am prepared to stand firm, but the doubt lingers. Am I ready for the confrontation this weekend will bring? As I pack my bags and steel myself for what lies ahead, I remind myself that this is just one weekend, one family gathering. But deep down, I know this weekend could change everything. The calm I feel now is fragile, and the storm is closer than I wish to admit. During my college years, I embraced a relentless work ethic that was both my shield and my weapon, while my peers enjoyed weekends filled with laughter and leisure. I balanced my demanding coursework with multiple part-time jobs. My days began before sunrise and often stretched late into the night. Fueled by determination and a vision of independence, I was accepted to Northwestern University on a partial scholarship, a small victory that felt like a beacon in the fog of uncertainty. However, my mother's dismissive attitude toward my ambitions never wavered. She had made it clear that the family's resources were reserved for Grace. This reality forced me to become resourceful. I juggled roles as a waitress at an upscale restaurant, a library assistant, and occasionally a tutor. These jobs were exhausting, but they opened doors I had only dreamed of. At the restaurant, I forged connections with business executives who later became mentors. Their guidance proved invaluable as I navigated the complex world of finance and career building. Despite the immense pressure, I never complained. My grandmother, Galilea, was a steady source of encouragement. Unlike my mother, she valued education and independence. Her weekly phone calls were a refuge, her words reminding me that my dreams were worthy of investment. When she passed during my senior year, she left me a modest inheritance of $75,000 along with a heartfelt letter encouraging me to build the future I desired. That inheritance became my secret nest egg. I chose to keep it hidden from my family, knowing their obsession with status might taint their view of my success. It wasn't enough to erase my student loans entirely. but it gave me breathing room to make strategic career moves rather than desperate ones. While Grace struggled through community college and a series of retail jobs, dependent on our parents for support, I secured an entry-level position at a prestigious financial firm. I negotiated a salary above the standard offer, secured performance bonuses, and developed a 5-year plan that I was determined to exceed. Each step was a quiet rebellion against the narrative my mother tried to write for me. The tension in my family grew as I advanced. Every achievement was met with backhanded compliments and veiled criticisms. Yet, I continued to push forward, fueled by a quiet fire that no amount of familial doubt could extinguish. This was my path hard-won, self-made, and fiercely protected. The weeks leading up to Grace's engagement party were filled with a tension I could almost taste. My mother, Evelyn, took control of every detail, transforming our modest family home into a grand setting that felt more like a movie set than a place I once called safe. The air buzzed with the scent of fresh flowers, expensive candles, and the kind of perfection that masks underlying cracks. Grace was radiant, as expected. Her laughter floated through the house, effortless and light, untouched by the growing financial pressure that only I seemed to notice. She was surrounded by friends and family who showered her with praise, oblivious to the storm brewing behind the scenes. The party was to be held at Lakeside Gardens, a venue renowned for its exclusivity and price tag far beyond what I considered reasonable. My mother spoke of it as though it were a birthright, a symbol of Grace's future and status. The preparations were meticulous, but every conversation with my mother inevitably circled back to money. "Grace deserves the best," she would say, eyes flashing with a mix of pride and expectation. "We've made deposits. The next payment is due soon. You understand, don't you?" Her words were coated with honey but stung sharply. I reminded her gently of my own wedding plans, our carefully budgeted lighthouse ceremony, but it was clear my practical approach held little weight in her eyes. On the phone, the calls increased. My mother's voice became a steady drone of guilt and obligation, wrapped in thinly veiled disappointment. "Family helps family," she insisted. "Grace is building her life. We all need to support her." I felt the weight of decades of expectation settle on my shoulders once again. It wasn't just money. It was an unspoken demand that I sacrifice my peace for their comfort. Halston noticed my growing unease. One evening, as I sat rubbing my temples after yet another call, he reached out. "You don't have to carry this alone," he said softly. "Your success isn't an invitation to solve every problem." His words were a balm, but the knots in my stomach remained. A close friend, Alicia, voiced what I had been afraid to admit aloud, over lunch. She warned me, "This party is a setup. Your mother and Grace will push for money. They're counting on you." Her bluntness was uncomfortable but truthful. I wanted to believe I could face this on my own. But the doubt gnawed at me, despite the warnings. I chose to attend alone, determined to hold my ground. I rehearsed my responses, prepared my calm exterior, but underneath, I braced for confrontation. Every meticulously wrapped gift and perfectly chosen outfit felt like armor against the inevitable. This was more than a party, it was a battleground, and I was walking into the fire. The day of Grace's engagement party arrived with an uneasy sense of inevitability. The backyard was transformed into a breathtaking scene, fit for a bridal magazine. White roses and hydrangeas adorned every table. Crystal glasses caught the afternoon sun, and a string quartet played softly in the corner. My mother, Evelyn, ruled over the preparations like a general, ensuring every detail was flawless. Grace flitted around in a blush-pink dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her excitement genuine yet tinged with something fragile. As guests began to arrive, I tried to settle into the role of the supportive sister, but the atmosphere felt charged. Grace's fiancé, Bradley, was conspicuously absent for much of the afternoon, citing industry meetings. His absence left a strange void that I couldn't ignore. When he finally arrived, his polished smile and sweeping charm did little to mask the calculating glint in his eyes. The party guests, many of whom were Bradley's friends, seemed less interested in celebration and more in whispers about financial opportunities. One man joked loudly about marrying up, praising the jackpot Bradley had hit. My stomach tightened, but before I could voice my unease, Grace pulled me away, eager to introduce me to Bradley's parents. Their stiff, formal greetings and cool expressions only deepened my suspicions. Later, in the kitchen, my mother handed me a glass of wine and lowered her voice. The Nortons have had some financial setbacks, she confided. It's just temporary liquidity issues, but the deposits on the venue and vendors are already made. Grace's heart is set on this wedding. Her eyes locked with mine, pleading silently. I changed the subject, but the message was clear. Financial support was expected. As the sun began to dip, the tension grew unbearable. I found myself retreating to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, trying to steady the whirlwind inside me. Halston texted that he was delayed but would be there soon. His words of reassurance were a lifeline. Then it happened. I was cornered by my mother near the dessert table. Her voice was low, deceptively calm. Galilea, can we talk privately? It's a family matter. Against my better judgment. I followed her into my father's study. Once the door was closed, her composure snapped. Isn't this wonderful? She began, gesturing toward the party outside. Grace has found her perfect match. This is a celebration of dreams. Then, her tone shifted. But the Nortons have had setbacks. The deposits. The venue. They need $50,000 immediately. You and Halston can afford it. You must help. I stared at her, disbelief turning to anger. $50,000. That's more than my entire wedding budget. My voice was steady but firm. I will not fund a wedding that's beyond reason. It's irresponsible and unfair to ask me. Her face flushed, eyes narrowing. After everything. The sacrifices. You're selfish. Galilea, Grace needs this. You're just counting your money. I moved toward the door, heart pounding. I love Grace, but I will not be your ATM. She followed, voice rising. You'll let her dreams shatter because you're too selfish to help. Guests gathered, watching the escalating confrontation. Then, in a moment, frozen in time, she grabbed a cup of coffee and threw it in my face. The hot liquid burned like fire, searing my skin. I screamed not just from the pain, but from shock and humiliation. The room fell silent. My mother's voice shattered the stillness. Look what you made me do! Tears blurred my vision as I stood there, soaked and stunned. The party was no longer a celebration, it was a family explosion. The chaos of the engagement party didn't end with the coffee incident. It only marked the beginning of a long, painful fallout that would force me to confront not just my family, but myself. The shock of standing there, humiliated and burned, echoed far beyond that night. Halston immediately took charge, guiding me to the hospital where the doctor confirmed first-degree burns on my face and neck. The pain was sharp but manageable, a physical reminder of the emotional scars I carried. As the nurse applied burn cream, my phone began to buzz relentlessly. Texts, missed calls, and voicemails poured in from family and guests alike. Grace's message was the first. I had no idea. Please, call me. Her apology felt genuine, but was quickly overshadowed by a plea. But you could have told me you were successful. We're sisters. That should mean something. I replied with honesty. I wanted to be valued for who I am, not for my bank account. Her silence in response spoke volumes. My father's voice came next, hesitant and weary. He admitted the family was struggling with the truth of my independence and success. Your mother is upset, he said softly. She's not handling this well, and I should have stood up for you. His confession was the first step toward unraveling years of silence and denial. Other family members quickly chose sides. Aunt Patricia, who once belittled my career, suddenly expressed admiration and interest in investment opportunities. Cousin Diana offered genuine concern, a comforting contrast in the storm. Meanwhile, My mother oscillated between rage and false apologies, trying desperately to regain control. Through it all, Halston remained my steadfast anchor. His family's response was a stark contrast: compassionate, supportive, and respectful. His mother called regularly, never mentioning money or demands. His father, a lawyer, offered advice on protective measures in case things escalated further. Their kindness highlighted the toxic patterns I had endured. In the weeks that followed, I began therapy with Jillian, who helped me untangle the complex web of emotional abuse and learned guilt. She emphasized that boundaries were not just necessary, they were essential. You are not responsible for your family's reactions, she told me. Their feelings are theirs to manage. Setting those boundaries was the hardest part. Every no I uttered triggered a familiar wave of guilt and self-doubt. But with Jillian's guidance and Halston's unwavering support, I started reclaiming my life. I stopped answering calls that left me drained. I refused financial demands that were disguised as family obligations. I chose peace over obligation. Meanwhile, my mother's attempts to reconnect grew more desperate and disruptive. She showed up unannounced at my office, forcing security to intervene. She sent extravagant flower arrangements with cards that trivialized the assault as a mere family disagreement. Social media reflected the fracture as Grace's posts shifted from wedding excitement to vague references about loyalty and betrayal. Rumors swirled that her engagement was unstable. Yet, through the turmoil, I held fast to a new truth: family should lift you up, not tear you down. Biological ties do not grant permission to mistreat. This conviction became my shield and my compass as I navigated the treacherous waters ahead. The months following the party marked a turning point in my life, one filled with new beginnings and cautious hope. My wedding day arrived without my mother's presence, a poignant absence that I acknowledged with both sorrow and relief. Instead, the day was filled with genuine warmth from those who had stood by me, friends like Alicia, who helped me navigate last-minute details and soothe my nerves, and Halston, whose steady presence made every moment feel sacred. My father, finally finding his voice after years of quiet submission, chose to attend without my mother. Our conversations in the months leading up to the wedding revealed a side of him I barely knew: regretful, vulnerable, and ready to change. He apologized for his silence and promised to support me on my own terms. Walking down the aisle with him was bittersweet, but it symbolized a fragile new chapter in our relationship. Grace, too, had begun to transform. After ending her engagement with Bradley, whose interest had clearly been more financial than genuine, she moved into her own apartment and found work she loved in event planning. The sister I once envied was evolving into someone I could respect. Before the ceremony, she surprised me with a small box of family heirloom, our grandmother's pearl bracelet, a silent gesture of healing that touched me deeply. Our wedding, held in a lighthouse keeper's cottage overlooking the rocky coastline, was intimate and meaningful. Halston and I exchanged vows against the backdrop of crashing waves and endless sky. The ceremony wasn't about fulfilling expectations, but embracing the choices we had made, choices rooted in love, respect, and the promise of a shared future. Later, at the reception, I saw Grace laughing with Halston's cousin, Michael, a reminder that she was building her own connections beyond the shadows of our past. As Halston and I shared our first dance, he whispered, "Are you happy?" I smiled and nodded. Despite everything, this day was exactly what we wanted. That night, Grace and I sat quietly on the lighthouse steps, reflecting on everything. She spoke honestly about the family's obsession with money and status and how it had shaped both of us differently. Me, fiercely independent and secretive. Her, struggling with dependence and entitlement. We acknowledged that neither path was perfect, but both were steps toward healing. She showed me her first business budget, asking for advice, not help, a sign of new respect between us. This simple exchange gave me hope that, despite the scars, our relationship could grow on new ground. As I looked out over the moonlit ocean, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. The journey from family chaos to calm was far from over, but I was no longer afraid. For the first time, I was building a life defined not by old wounds, but by the strength to set boundaries, embrace love on my terms, and hope for the future. This story is a powerful reminder that true strength lies in recognizing your worth and setting healthy boundaries, even when it means standing up to those closest to you. Family relationships can be complicated, filled with expectations, sacrifices, and sometimes painful truths. Yet, choosing peace over obligation and self-respect over approval can open the door to genuine healing and growth. Galilea's journey shows us that success is not just about financial achievement, but about the courage to protect your well-being and live authentically. This story is a work of fiction created for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to attack or defame any individual, family, or organization. Any resemblance to real persons or events is purely coincidental. If this story moved you or sparked a thought, please let us know by commenting below. Your likes, shares, and subscriptions help us create more stories that inspire and entertain. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching and being part of our community.